The restaurant industry and their lobbying group have been revealed as the major pushers of legislation that would weaken child labor laws, as the industry hopes to exploit this source of cheap labor. Now that's what it is, right? We're on a big cheap labor effort by corporate America right now. Whether it's hotels, whether it's restaurants, whether it's an industry of every kind. You got two things going on. You got children coming across the border, expendable. All the folks coming across the border are expendable. Use them up, ship them back. Kill them if you have to, ship them back. But here you're talking about children, both immigrant children and U.S. citizens, that they're figured out we can make a lot of money by having these kids working these dangerous jobs. We don't have to pay them as much, right?
Right, and it's just like back in the old days. We hired the kids to go into the printing press because they're smaller and they can dislodge things and get this big machinery going again. That's how kids were losing fingers and arms and lives. But what we're seeing here with the restaurant industry behind the push, when I saw this story, it clicked for me. Okay. The restaurant industry itself is a massive employer of undocumented immigrants.
Yeah.
It's typically an industry where you can manage to have a couple people where you just strictly pay in cash. There's not a lot of oversight. So to expand this to where they can bring in the migrant children, well, they know, okay, listen, I've got a couple folks in here who are undocumented. They've got kids. I can bring their kids in too, pay them $5 an hour instead of $10 an hour. They can't say anything to complain about it. So it just expands this cycle of abuse that the migrant workers are facing.
I wrote a book, last book I wrote, it's called Inhuman Trafficking. It's fiction, but it's based on the cases that we've handled. And what we saw there was they were recruiting workers in the restaurant business in Europe, right? They'd go to Ukraine and they would say, you want a job in the service industry, come to the United States, we can put you in a restaurant. Okay, they get them over here. They take all of their IDs away, they isolate them, they put them in a room with 20 other kids. They then say, you're not making enough at the front desk. I mean, you're a greeter. You can make a lot more serving, so they move them to serving. Oh, you can make a lot more if you can come over here, serve during the day, and dance on the pole at night. And oh, by the way, you can make even more money than dancing on the pole if you will just meet Ted here, this little freakish guy, Ted. And all of a sudden, the human trafficking goes into that. This is not exactly the same thing, but it's the same mentality. You've got an entire restaurant industry that says we want these kids working in industrial freezers. We want them working in meat coolers. We want them to do an industrial laundry. We want to expand the hours. Let's expand the hours that they're able to work. It's nothing but exploitation.
It really is. And corporations also know that even for U.S. citizens under the age of 18, for the first 90 days, you can pay them any wage you want. It does not have to be minimum wage.
And then fire them after 90 days.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, what's the 90-day period? Well, that's the summer period for these kids that are still in school. So you get cheap summer labor, which is typically the busiest time for all these industries.
You'd be glad to know that the Koch family is behind this. The Koch family, they're the ones really pushing this. So this is taking place in Ohio, Minnesota, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and nobody's going to stop it. Nobody's going to stop it, and we're going to see more deaths. Kids' arms. When it comes to the immigrants, their arms are going to be cut off or ship them back to Mexico or Guatemala. With the U.S. kids, let's put them on hours that are like 12 hours a day, because they want to work as much as they can before school starts again. Right?
Yeah, and eventually, now that we're in the 2020s, we're going to have to go back and repass the legislation we passed in the 1920s to get the kids out of the coal mines again.
Right. Farron, thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this week, but all these segments are going to be available throughout next week, and make sure you follow us on Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where we tell you the stories every week that corporate media can't tell you because their advertisers don't allow them to tell those stories. They're making too much money from their advertisers, or their political connections to Republican or Democrat won't permit them to tell the story because it just wouldn't fit to their agenda. We don't have that problem. So we'll see you next time.